Good morning, anatomy classes. Take number 2, although you'll never see take number 1. I had a spoken faux pas that if I would have said it in class, probably would have brought everybody to tears, but I'm not going to even tell you what that was. I turned one word into another word, and it didn't sound very good. But anyways, Chapter 15. You have an assessment that's going to be due by the end of the week. That is posted. Make sure you check on the due dates for your class, since this is for 2 different classes. And I've done something a little different with this assessment. Instead of having a number of questions, since we've been doing a lot of questions during this chapter, instead of having a number of questions that are somewhat repetitive, since you've answered them already, hopefully, I'm doing one question. One large question and then a second class-specific question. So you'll have 2 questions to answer for this assessment, which is worth 100 points. Make sure that you do this work and do it completely. I want, and I've made the point before when we were meeting face-to-face, I started talking about a little bit because we were getting to that point in the year where the light at the end of the tunnel was approaching. It's very close now. And some of you have been doing an excellent job of really answering these questions completely, sincerely, and others have been spotty. I've had people show up and do a lot of work and then disappear for a few days. So I understand things are happening. I understand that this is unprecedented times. I don't like to use the same words that are being used over and over again. It is truly that. But at the same time, do the best that you can and make sure that you're not selling yourself short. You're not doing this to please me. You're not doing it to please your parents. You're not doing it to put a grade on your transcript. Because basically, if you're doing all the work you're supposed to be doing, it's not going to affect your grade. With that said, I have some people that are on the borderline right now. I have the ability, if I see that the work you've done since we've been out because of the coronavirus has been sufficient and at a level that I felt satisfactory, that I could take your 3rd quarter grade and average it up. So that is at my discretion. So if I have somebody who's been working really hard and doing all their work, turning it in on time, I have the ability to take your grade and knock it up to the next notch. That is at my discretion, and I will obviously be very liberal with that, but at the same time, you have to do your work. And the point is, the long-term goal, it's not about grades, it's not about, like I said, pleasing anybody else. It's about when you walk through the doors next year and we sit down and meet as seniors, that you will be prepared for that curriculum and ready to go, and not be behind because of everything that we've been going through here recently. So make sure that you're doing this work. So back to the question. The question is a food trace. I want to know what happens to a bite of food. I want to know the options for that bite of food. What can happen to it? So you're going to need to trace that bite of food from the time it enters your mouth until A, it either leaves your body because it's not digestible and has to be processed as waste, or B, is absorbed through the walls of the small or large intestine. Obviously, that's what the body wants. That's why we eat in the first place. We don't eat so we can make waste. We eat so we can take the nutrients that we need from it and put those into our body so we can deliver them to the cells using the cardiovascular system. So what you need to tell me is the entire process, from the time you enter the mouth, through the esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine. You want to talk about the functionality of the pancreas, even though the food doesn't pass through the pancreas. The pancreas is connected to the digestive system, so it can deliver enzymes for digestion. Talk about the liver and the gallbladder and the delivery of bile and its functionality. So what I did in the question, if you haven't looked at it already, is I put I didn't count them, probably a couple dozen terms that I need included in this answer. So this is not going to be a sentence. It's going to be a paragraph or 2. So it's more of a project-style question than anything else. So basically what you're doing is not only giving a map, stepwise, what happens to the food here, and you can't skip around. You have to put it in order. You're also going to describe the journey of the food. What's happening to it as it passes through the esophagus? What happens to it when it's in the small intestine? What does it look like? So you might have to go outside of the things that I've been delivering to you during these short lectures. You might have to look online. Just don't start copying and pasting things. Learn a little bit. Understand what happens to the food after you swallow it. Most of us don't even think about that, and maybe you don't want to think about it, but I'm going to ask you to here, at least while you work on this project. The second question is class-specific. I want you to, if you're in the dental class, I want you to talk about the formation using the nutrient section of the chapter, the formation of teeth. So again, you're going to have to look, spend a little bit of time online, and talk about how teeth are formed using the various nutrients that we intake as part of our diet, vitamins and minerals, formation of teeth. For the EMT students, fire and EMT students, I picked a very, very specific question that has to do with a tear in the lining of either the stomach or the esophagus. And I want you to take a peek at that and how you would treat that as a first responder. There are some specific guidelines. So, making the patient comfortable and getting to the hospital, yes, that's always part of it. But I want you to think about what you're doing and why you're doing what you would be doing in this situation. The specific scenario that I suggest in the question is one that is in most of the EMT textbooks. So take a peek at it, learn a little bit, and apply it to this chapter 15. And that'll be it for this chapter. After that, depending on what our schedule ends up being, and those guidelines are coming out daily, I will cover chapter 16 for sure. And if we don't have time to cover chapter 17, we won't. But I will make sure that you have an end-of-the-year assessment that kind of ties everything together, and that is going to come in the form of some type of a project, a slides presentation, something to that. Haven't decided how I'm going to do that. I don't know what it looks like yet. I've tossed some things around in my head, but beyond that, they're just rattling around in there, so I haven't put anything on paper yet. But that's what it's going to be. So you'll probably have one more chapter where we have a few short lectures, some questions, and an assessment, and then after that, a final project. And that's going to pretty much wrap up the year. You guys have a good day.